Lost in the abyss, unraveling the mystery of the hacienda. Scary story. Halloween night. Witches. I used to not believe in them, but once my girlfriend and I were invited to an exhibition of black and white horror movies in a hacienda, which worked for a while as a home for Catholic seminarians. Place was located near a lake. According to what I was told, the area was very beautiful, and the farm kept that spark that made you feel fear. And at the end of the day, this was what we were looking for on Halloween. We decided to dress up as Batman and Catwoman. Although we also live in Nayarit, the place was a bit far from our house. So we went a little bit ahead of time since we wanted to visit the lagoon. Since we had no change of clothes other than our costumes and coats for the night, we felt a little uncomfortable since everyone was staring at us and we didn't see anyone else in costume at the lagoon. At nightfall, we headed to the seminary. The place was difficult to access. It was located between the lagoon and a slope. Fortunately, my vehicle has four-wheel drive. Otherwise, I would not have dared to access the place by car. Along the way, we picked up a couple of girls who were also going to the site. They were dressed in costumes. We arrived at the entrance, where we had to wait in a long line. I really didn't there would be so many people at the event. After giving the tickets, we walked through a small labyrinth of tiles. We arrived to a kind of viewpoint. From there, we could see the construction of the magnificent building. It had two wings or rectangular blocks, where we were told had been the barracks of the seminarians, and in the middle a very large round construction, which was the main chapel, because according to the guides, the building had a total of 7 chapels. Personally, the construction seemed wonderful to me. At that moment, I thought of telling Celine, my girlfriend, that if any of the movies seemed boring, we should sneak out to explore the corridors and take pictures. We continued walking, crossed a stone bridge, and arrived at one of the many gardens that the seminar had. It was explained to us that the event would be divided into 3 zones in which the same film would be projected. It was up to us to choose the location. One zone would be in the open air, another in the hall of the right wing of the barracks, and the other in the left wing. We chose to stay in the left wing. I asked a staff person it would not take us to see the main chapel and the other parts of the seminary. She said no, that if I wanted to see the place, I could schedule a visit another day, and that we were asked to stay in the areas where the security staff was, and above all, for no reason, to go through the cordoned-off areas. We bought some large popcorn and sat down as the screenings were about to begin. I was comfortable to see that most of the audience was wearing costumes. We watched a couple of short films about vampires. Then I stopped to look for the bathroom. One of the staff pointed out where they were located. Before going, I went back for Celine, who told me she wanted to go too. We went out into a hallway with many doors on the sides, all of which had tape prohibiting us from entering. On the way back from the bathroom, I bribed one of the security guards who guarded the passage to the barracks with a cigarette. This gave us permission to pass, although he warned us not to say anything, and that at the first strange thing we noticed, we should return immediately. We said yes to everything, although I didn't understand what he meant when he said we noticed something strange. As soon as we walked through the door, we felt the temperature drop abruptly. I didn't understand how, if we were in the same building. It felt so cold from one room to another. We turned on the flashlights of our cell phones. We saw the bunk beds that had belonged to the seminarians. Everything was intact. The construction was austere. It had no ornamental or fine finishes, nor were there many religious images, only a couple of pictures and a huge wooden crucifix. Celine began to shiver. She told me that she felt too cold, so I put my jacket on her. We arrived at a door leading to another garden. I didn't think the door would be open, but with a push it opened. Celine asked me not to go any further. I told her we would just look around and then we could go back. She agreed, not very willingly. Outside it was even colder. The garden was very well kept, full of flowers. I found another chapel. It was right in the middle of the garden. It was very small. It only had a bench and at the back again a cross. As we left the chapel, illuminating the floor, I noticed that the stones on the floor formed a path. I wanted to follow it, but Celine asked me again to leave. This time it was harder for me to convince her to follow me. We continued along the path of stones until we reached a staircase. We descended to a ravine overlooking the lake, although at the bottom of the stairs there was still enough dry sand to stand on. We stood looking at the moon and the lake. Celine hugged me and told me that after all it was a good idea to have followed the path. Then we heard someone whistling behind us. We turned and illuminated with the lamps of our cell phones. Then we noticed that under the ravine there was a grill with thick bars that protected the entrance to a cave. We approached and noticed that inside there was a statuette with the figure of the devil. To our surprise, the grill opened by itself. We stepped back. Seconds later, we saw a strange woman come out, inviting us to go inside the cave. We panicked and could do nothing but run up the stairs and did not stop until we reached the chapel. Celine was crying. I asked her to pray, so we did. When we were inside the chapel, we heard someone crawling in the garden. I did not know what to do. I felt very afraid, and I could not show it, because I needed to take care of Celine. So I decided to take down the crucifix from the monastery, and I went out, making myself look like I had been in the chapel. I decided to take down the crucifix from the monastery, and I went out pretending to be brave. I asked her to walk, hugging my back. In one hand, I carried the crucifix, and in the other, the cell phone illuminating the way. In the distance, I saw a figure crawling in a supernatural way. We ran until we reached the door through which we had left. Halloween night. Inside the barracks, we heard strange wailing noises, and the bunks were dancing as if someone was pushing them. We ran to where the tape was, hoping to find the guard who let us through, but it got even weirder as the hallway was completely empty. We walked to the area where they were showing the movie, but there was no one there either. It was completely alone. There was no one there, and the projector was still playing a movie. It makes sense. We weren't gone that long. We thought maybe everyone had gone to another area, so we walked towards the exit of the building. We found the door locked, started banging on it loudly and shouting for them to let us out. Unfortunately, we had no answer. Suddenly, Celine screamed in horror. She said, "There she is. She is a witch." I turned my face into my horror. I saw the same strange woman that we had left behind, but she was even more frightening up close. I don't remember much, because when you are afraid, your mind tries to go somewhere else. But the little I could remember was that suddenly someone opened the door. Minutes later, we were being attended to in a nursing station. They told us that they found us in the barracks. I did not understand what was happening. I swore to them that it was true, what had just happened to us. It did not make sense that they had taken us out of the barracks if we were in the projection area. A staff person came over to talk to us. She told us that this was why they did not let anyone pass to other areas, because there were many people who had gotten lost, and we had been lucky to be found. This happened to us a long time ago. Even today, I do not understand what happened. I have heard stories about the place, although they do not offer many answers, because they only talk about people who got lost in the barracks and never came back. I think everything could have been caused by the witch we saw in the cave at the foot of the lake. But who knows? Anything is possible. Even that the witch was just a projection of the devil himself. Thank you for joining us for this spine-tingling story. We hope you found it both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this video, please consider participating in our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends. Your support goes a long way in helping us create more engaging content for you. Goodbye, and may you always tread carefully in the world of the unknown.